Good evening, CMST 430. My name is Brendon Favre, and this is my Week 3 discussion. As advertised, I struggled with both of these chapters. Some of these theories were pretty confusing, and then it seemed like each theory had several sub-theories within that theory, so it kind of confused me a little bit. I'll go ahead and jump into the questions. Explain what you like about it, how you think it helps you better understand organizational life, how it might help you better understand something in an organization you're connected to. Then do the opposite. Find one theory in each chapter that you hate and or confuses you. Explain your issues with it and how it confuses you. After exploring those theories, pick one theory and look at our case from last week. How does that theory help us to better understand some aspect, any aspect of the case? So we'll start with chapter 3. The theory I liked the best was under Frederick Taylor's scientific management, and it was the theory of time and motion, which is looking at how long it took to perform a task and comparing it to the outcome or the end results of that task. I found for me this was the most effective way for me to approach things in the workplace. This allowed me to analyze and refine how I performed a task or interacted with somebody. Hindsight's always 20/20. This would help me determine if I was effectively communicating or if I needed to change how I was sending the message. This would also help me refine tasks, comparing the outcome to how long the task took me. By doing that, I could place values on the tasks. Was it worth the time? As we all know, time is a commodity, and we need to use it wisely. For me, this comes with prioritizing tasks. This would also motivate me to find more effective and efficient ways to complete the task. When I would prioritize tasks, I would look at how long it would take me to do it. I would create timelines for how I was doing it, and that way I could make sure I got the most important things done first, and then that would give me time to focus on the other ones or readjust my schedule as needed. For the one I didn't like Douglas McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y. I don't think that managers should group or label workers. Managers should be looking at workers and finding ways to motivate them to perform better. If we have underperforming employees, we need to find ways to try to motivate them to work harder. I feel that if we group or label workers as good and bad, we're going to show a bias and treat the two groups differently. We might do this subconsciously, but we're probably going to give just even the tone in our voice and our body language toward the good workers and the bad workers, we're probably going to be shorter when we're communicating with the bad workers. We're going to be more open and kind of happy with the good workers. And by labeling those two groups, you're not going to be helping the situation at all. The so-called bad workers are going to see you being more friendly with the good workers, and it's just going to make the situation worse. And as managers, we're there to make things better, not worse. Leaders need to take on these leadership challenges and not just label them as dumb or lazy. That's just passing the blame and the responsibility off on something else so we don't have to deal with it. In the end, these are just assumptions that we have about people when we could be reading the situation completely wrong. If we attempt to motivate them in different ways and there is no change, then we can do other things, more aggressive things like evaluations to bring the issues to their attention. They might not even know that they're underperforming. We all have different standards. No two people are going to be alike. So as managers, we need to find ways to motivate them. And by doing evaluations, you're kind of creating a paper trail for yourself. If you're trying to motivate these people, you're doing things in different ways. You're bringing the attention, directly to them. And they still choose not to do anything about it, then it might be time to terminate that employee, and you don't want to have any excuse that they can come up with for wrongful termination or anything like that. You can say, no, I had a paper trail, I informed them about all this stuff, and they chose not to do anything about it. Jumping into chapter 4, the theory I liked the best for this chapter was the systems theory. I'm used to this type of organization structure, so I think it made it pretty easy for me to associate the material with. With this model, you have several departments that all have different functions but are interdependent on each other to accomplish a shared goal or objective. So the overall mission, in the military, we had a maintenance company and we had different support companies. We needed them to keep our equipment running, so we had a job, and they needed us, so we had the equipment for them to fix and maintain. I also like that it uses different approaches to achieve the same goal. I used to not like this. I used to like, there's one way to skin a cat, and that's the only way to do it. But as growing, you learn that different approaches to doing things, there's sometimes are better ways to doing it. There shouldn't be one set way of doing things. We should always be looking for more efficient ways to complete tasks, because this is going to save organizations the two biggest commodities, which is time and money. The one I had the most difficult with was the feminist theory. I just had a difficult time understanding it. I read it several times, so I think I have a much better understanding of it now, and I probably might understand this one better than the other ones. I've always viewed the workplace and life in general as a neutral ground. I've never really tried to judge somebody based on, their sex, race, or religion, but on who they are. What is their work ethic? What are their morals? How do they live their life? That's kind of where I tried to stick with. You get pieces of crap from all types of backgrounds, and race, sex, religion, none of that really matters. It matters on who the person is. It seemed like the book talked about two main theories within the feminist theory. The first being gender differences in the workplace, and the second being your standing within the organization, or who has the power within an organization. The more power you have, the more masculine you are. The book uses the term leader-follower. So you have the leaders on top, and everybody below them are the followers, and that's how you create that masculine, feminine kind of power structure. For the last question, I would say that the feminist theory applied best to this case study. The people within the company were dependent on it for a paycheck, creating the leader-follower roles. The workers had to do what the company asked them to do if they wanted to keep their jobs. This meant compromising their morals by lying and being deceptive about a drug that they knew to be harmful. By the company taking on the masculine role, they were able to force workers to stay in line and do what they were told. If they wanted to keep their job, they were told, you will not talk about this. If somebody brings this up, you'll change the subject or just refuse to talk about it. You're going to hand out misleading information. You're going to do all these things. We're going to cut information out of the studies and stuff like that. These people did it because they wanted to keep their jobs. I can't imagine that they actually wanted to do it. And that'll do it for this week's session. Thanks.